That's good.
Welcome everyone to Season 3, Episode 103 of the Premier Pod. I'm your host, Yash Bika, joined by my co-host, Tyler Chan. In this episode, we'll be recapping the Liverpool-Manchester United match, which unsurprisingly ended 0-0 actually. Another Big Six match ending 0-0. We'll give an update on the Premier League title race, which has gotten really toasty and really interesting during this past midweek of games, with Leicester City and Man City climbing up the boards and Chelsea and Liverpool falling. And then just an overall update on some transfer news and a legend retiring from the game of soccer. But you know what? I know it's on a little bit down, but I wanted to quickly mention, we mentioned this in our rundown, but Wayne Rooney retiring as a player and will now be the permanent Derby County manager. Happened literally a day after we got finished recording and uploaded it. So, Wayne Rooney dropping the news on us unexpectedly, and we could make a pod about it. But, it's a pretty crazy that Wayne Rooney is retiring, because when he was in the MLS, we were watching him a little bit. But then when he moved to Derby County, in a ways I didn't really know when he was playing. I mean, he played Manchester United in the FA Cup and then we beat them. But what can I say? Wayne Rooney, a legend of the game, my favorite Manchester United player. Just the goals he scored, the leader he was, it was just, he was always someone that captivated me, and I was always enjoyed watching him play. So it was sad seeing him retired, but I'm excited to see what he can do as a manager now.
Retired at the age of, I believe, 35. He started playing at 16 years old.
That's a lot. That's a long time.
He's been in the Premier League for a long time. He was like a staple.
Yeah, he's been a professional for a long time. At 16, that's crazy.
And he's going straight from being a player at Derby County straight to the manager. That's literally when a player is just like, F it, I'm doing it myself. So he's taking over for Derby. And Derby is not in as great of a spot as Frank Lampard had it when he was the manager. So right now, Derby County, I believe, is kind of fighting relegation, if I remember correctly last time looking at it. So Ray Rooney's going into this at a slight disadvantage. So he might not have all the magic unless he does one of those player manager things where he just decides to put on a jersey and just hop on the field. But I don't really know if he can do that these days.
Yeah, I think he was doing that a little bit in the beginning of the season, because I think he announced he was going to be player manager, but now he's permanently the manager. And yeah, I mean, I agree with you. It'd be interesting. It's always funny that the whole England star generation of like the 2010 was Lampard, Rooney, and Gerrard, and now Gerrard's the manager at Rangers, Lampard is at Chelsea, and now Rooney's at Derby County. It's funny how they all become managers at such a young age too, relatively speaking, when it comes to being a manager.
And also being managers for somewhat big clubs.
Yeah,
just going straight into it. I feel like this is one of those situations where, when you see your parents, and then your parents are like, yeah, well, when my friend had kids, I had a kid, I had you, and then my other friend had a kid, and then so it's just like everyone just has kids because all their other friends had kids, and then now you see this England squad, one person becomes a manager, and then someone else becomes a manager. He's like, you know what? They became managers. I'll become a manager too.
Yeah, John Terry's like assistant coach for Aston Villa.
Exactly.
So I mean, they're all finding their ways to become a manager and such. Like Xavi, Iniesta. Well, I don't know about Iniesta, but Xavi obviously is a manager. Torres. I don't know if you saw that picture of Torres. He looks like a bulked up linebacker. He bulked up during this time off as a retired player.
He literally got bigger than Goretzka.
Yeah.
That makes no sense. Like, I saw him and it looked like a photoshopped image.
I know.
Like, why is Torres big now? It makes
It's crazy, because this guy used to always be like the skinny, fast striker for Liverpool, Chelsea, and then Atletico Madrid and everything. So it was interesting seeing him. It was actually really funny seeing him all buffed up and stuff. But we'll see what Rooney does. I wish him good luck, because I know I want to see him succeed. And it's crazy that one of the legends of the game when we were watching is now retiring, and unfortunately it's going to keep happening. Like, Messi, Ronaldo, all those legends that dominated the 2010s and such, and for a good majority of the 2000 era are retiring. And it's sad, but that's like the evolution of the game. People get older and they got to retire and everything. So
makes me feel old.
I know. But we wanted to move on to the Liverpool Manchester United match. Obviously, it's a big rivalry. We hyped it up. we thought it was going to be super exciting, a lot of goals and such. Unfortunately, it ended 0-0. But Tyler and I were texting throughout the match, and for the most part, it could be a little bit of bias on both of our ends. We thought it wasn't the most boring 0-0. We thought there was chances on both ends. Obviously, Liverpool in that first half dominated the game a lot, but they just couldn't find that cutting edge pass or that cutting edge, like that final option in the final third to break down Manchester United defense. And then Manchester United in the second half started to warm up a little bit, and Paul Pogba probably had the best chance of the game, but Ali's son just like stepped up in a huge way and just saved Liverpool. But I thought it was missed chances on both ends. I thought Liverpool lacked a little bit of something. I thought United could have came in and like taken their chances a little bit better. I think they left a lot on the table, and unfortunately for Liverpool, I think it was kind of the same. But that was my take on it. It was kind of just an evenly matched game when you look at it at the end.
In the end, yeah, but even overall, I think because of the first half, how Liverpool was just so dominant, I felt like Liverpool should have came away with something. And even with Henderson and Fabinho playing that pair of center backs, I literally texted Josh right before the match started. I was like, we got Fabinho and Henderson, expect goals. But they played really well, surprisingly to me. I was like, oh, wow, they actually kept out most opportunities. There's even one opportunity when Rashford in the second half got on a breakaway. It was just him and Cavani versus Fabinho and Henderson. And then Henderson and Fabinho managed to stop the run and managed to stop that breakaway opportunity. And Cavani was so mad. But I was like, holy cow, how do we do that?
Yeah.
But even then, despite all the defensive efforts from this unconventional pair of center backs, and also Ali's son just playing on top of his head, just stopping everything, we couldn't get a goal. I felt like it was that final pass, that final finish from Liverpool just wasn't there. And it was a very weird thing to see, because usually for Liverpool, in the past couple seasons at least, it's always been they finish those chances that they're given. They're very efficient. They finish the easy chances. Some of the harder chances they finish as well, but at least the easy ones they for sure get. But in this game, it just wasn't there. Like that little edge, that extra oomph, was just not there. So for this game, I felt like the offense was the issue for Liverpool, and that was really strange. Thiago Alcantara literally was the carry for the team. I felt like he was the architect, the maestro. He had the most passes, successful chances created, most interceptions, most duels. Like, it was insane how many things he won in that game for the team. And even then, he couldn't really unlock it for Liverpool. And I felt like that's really on like the front three to kind of like step up, and also just the team overall, kind of missing Henderson being in that midfield. But
yeah,
I felt like United played pretty good defense despite everything as well. Like, it's not just Liverpool being bad at finishing. It was Harry Maguire and Lindelof actually doing really well.
It's like I remember that one chance Firmino cuts in, and I thought that was going to be a goal. Like, he's going to just curl it into the upper 90, but Lindelof like adjusted himself well enough to block it. And I thought Luke Shaw played pretty well too in terms of keeping. I think he was on Salah at the time. I think he did a pretty good job of keeping him in check. And for the most part, I understand the way United went out, because I think if United tried to go on the front foot and attack too much, the pace, they don't have enough pace in their center backs. You know, Maguire and Lindelof aren't the fastest, and with Mane and Salah and Firmino running at you, that's not what you want for two slower center backs. So I think the way they set up was probably the best way they could, because they had to make up for the fact that they don't have a ton of pace on the back line. So I think it was a pretty even draw, but Ali's son just came in really clutch with those saves. And one thing I thought was really interesting was Fabinho's play. I know you mentioned the breakaway, but the guy is so good. He's just really good at just reading the game. And in a lot of ways, it's really funny. He's kind of the player that Manchester United kind of need the most in the midfield, just like that, the pure like defensive midfielder who is literally good at everything in terms of breaking up play, composed enough to pick out a pass, intelligent enough to know what's going on, not rash where he's just throwing in a bunch of challenges. Because I spoke about this before, that United have three defensive midfielders in McTominay, Matic, and Fred, but they all specialize in like three different things. But if you were to just put one on their own, they don't have the full package with them. And Fabinho is the full package midfielder. And it's a shame that Liverpool have been hit with so many injuries that we haven't seen him play in the midfield, where obviously that's his position. But obviously he's a talented enough player to handle being in a center back position. But I thought he was really good with his man marking and his just his overall play. He was just very composed, I would say. And there was another thing that I saw in this game that Jamie Carragher actually pointed out in one of those Sky Sports recaps. He was talking about the performance of Firmino, how when you're talking about trios in the Premier League, he made up a point that a lot of trios in the Premier League don't really last more than 3 years. Like he even brought up like Tevez, Rooney, and Ronaldo only lasted, I think, 2.5 seasons. The other big ones, Sane, Aguero, and Sterling only lasted, I believe, 2.5 years and such. But Liverpool's front three has been on, I think this is what, the third or fourth season in a row. And he was saying that, he's more confident that Salah and Mane will be able to pick up their form. They're just in a little dip of form right now, but he is more concerned about Firmino and how he doesn't really offer that I was going to say pure number 9 threat, and he obviously acknowledged that Firmino has never been the pure number 9, but when things aren't going the best, that Jamie Carragher was kind of just bringing up the point that they need a striker there that can just tuck away chances, like a poacher, like a Cavani-esque, where it's just like that guy will just poach the ball in the back of the net no matter what. And Liverpool don't really have that right now, and I just thought that was interesting because we've always talked about this in the podcast, how Firmino is like the unsung hero of Liverpool, but it could be maybe that's the position they need to replace sooner rather than later type thing. I thought that was an interesting point he brought up when it comes to the Liverpool front three.
I've been thinking the same, and Origi is that poacher for us, like that super sub that can come off the bench, despite him probably not liking that kind of title for himself, just always just coming off the bench and being that big impact player. But it's also really hard just to bring someone in and saying, all right, you're not going to start every game. You're just going to ride the bench and then hopefully you can get us a goal, because it's just how Liverpool plays. But it is something I feel like Liverpool are lacking at times, because you just, even in this game, like this Man U Liverpool game, there's a few chances. Firmino, he's really good at finishing. It's just some other times, like that shot when he cut in against Lindelof, instead of just taking it with his left foot, I felt like if that was Suarez or Torres, they would have shot it sooner instead of trying to cut back and then hit it on their preferred foot. So just those little things, like that kind of mentality of just like going like a bull, just going straight in. I feel like that's not, Firmino's way. He's always really looking for the pass first. So he's like a midfielder playing a striker's role. And that's kind of played beneficial to Liverpool in the past several seasons. But there are certain times when this won't work. And that's in this game in particular. But I also want to quickly mention, like on top of what you mentioned about Fabinho, I feel like he's my player of the season for Liverpool right now, because he's literally a defensive midfielder, as Yash said, but playing a whole different position that he wasn't signed up for. Yeah, he came as like a right back from Monaco, but he got moved to center defensive mid, which is his preferred role. But now, because of just situation, injuries, he's playing center back, and he's stopping some of the best attacks in the Premier League at center back. So that goes to show. And he doesn't have that protection that he would have when he would be there while he's playing center back. So that's also on top of that. Yeah,
it's when I was just watching the game, it just really showed me just how unfortunate it is for Liverpool, because if they had everyone healthy, I mean, I still think they probably could have kicked on and be in this title race, or even be in first place comfortably. But the injuries have hurt them. And I think it's not on the rundown, but one quick thing I wanted to point out was they were mentioning this in the broadcast, and I noticed that a little bit too. It's the play of Trent Alexander-Arnold. Oh God, I don't know why I can't say his name. TAA. We'll just do that. His play, I was watching the game, and even in this Manchester United game, he looked kind of shaky. There was one back pass where he had a ton of time where he could have just comfortably headed it back to Alisson, and like he headed it back for a corner for Manchester United. I don't know if you remember that.
Yeah, I remember exactly that.
It was weird. And I know in the last game against Southampton, I think they said that he had so many errors, like individual errors in that game, and everything. And I think that was very interesting because when we talk about Trent, it's always been a progression for him. Like each season, he's gotten better and better and better. It's never been like, oh, it's a dip of form, or he's struggling, or he's hit like a sophomore slump. It's always been like, holy crap, this guy keeps getting better and better and better. And this season, obviously, he's been hurt with a little bit of injuries and such, but this season, I think we're maybe seeing a little bit of that, I guess, that progression, not tail off, but maybe he's hitting kind of like that little roadblock in his career, not where he's going to be a terrible player, but maybe he's just kind of going through a slump that from a person that doesn't watch Liverpool day in and day out, that the casual, person that just follows the Premier League is starting to notice that Trent's level of play is going down a little bit. I still think he's going to be fine, but I think it's interesting that he's, now after, 3 seasons of like pure progression is now hitting a little bit of a roadblock in terms of his play and such. I thought that was interesting.
No, I definitely saw that too, because in that Southampton game last week, Trent gave away the ball 38 times, I believe. That's like a Premier League record. And I was thinking, how the heck? I can't even count or like even catch 38 times someone's giving away the ball. And that's ridiculous for someone like Trent, especially a defender giving away the ball 38 times. That's really bad, especially for, breakaways or potential opportunities just to, break up your own counterattack. So there's been times also I saw Trent, he would try to cross, and then he's typically a very accurate passer. Like he's compared to with Kevin De Bruyne. Even we've compared him to Kevin De Bruyne, like arguably the best passer in the Premier League. But this season, it's been kind of sloppy. He's just been like spamming crosses. And Robertson, he's been on the other side. He's been still doing all right. Like I feel like he's stayed the same in terms of progressing well and still being a really good player on that left side. But Trent has seen a noticeable dip at times. So I think overall, something's going on at Liverpool. Maybe they're very tired because there were times when, it just looked like Mane was the only one who had energy.
Yeah.
And I think the rotation of certain players into the team has definitely helped. Like having Big Shaqiri in has definitely helped with kind of finding that creative pass, that new set of
big miss. Jota's in the front three, it would have been like huge because obviously if you put him in, at least you could rest one of the front three every now and again.
Mm-hmm. And he has that like finisher's edge. I feel like that thing that we're missing. Jota is not a pure striker as well, but he has that mentality to shoot the ball.
Yeah,
like a little bit better than Firmino. Mm-hmm. And despite even having Shaqiri and Thiago in that midfield, like the main creators of the team, there weren't even that many like clear-cut chances, I felt like, in that Liverpool Man U game. Because even when I was texting Yash, I was saying that I felt like Man U had the better chances.
Yeah.
And that's something weird to say being at home at Anfield. But that record of just not losing at home for like 66 plus games or something like that might be playing to their heads a little bit.
They put out a stat. The last time they lost was in April of 2017. And that was literally when I was a freshman in college. That's crazy. That was like my end of my freshman year of college. That just put into perspective how long it's been since they've lost, which I thought was insane that they've gone that long and haven't lost at home. So it was a good game. It didn't live up with the goal fest that we thought it was going to be, but it was still a good game that had a lot of big stakes in it, and a big stakes that we haven't seen in a while. But a team, since that game finished in a draw, two teams that have actually taken advantage of it. The first one, Manchester City beating Crystal Palace 4-0. They actually won today as well. They beat Aston Villa 2-0. But this team, and specifically, I know we mentioned John Stones before. He scored a brace in this Crystal Palace game, but the way City are playing, it's almost reminiscent of the time when they basically blew away the Premier League that first season or that second season under Pep, where they were just winning games like boom, boom, boom. And they were playing such good attacking football. And they're doing the same thing now. And they still don't even have Aguero back. They've been playing Gabriel Jesus and everything. But this team is legitimately scary. I think they are coming and they have a game in hand. I think they're just a team that is scaring me right now because they are ticking all the boxes right now. João Cancelo is playing really well. John Stones is playing really well. Kevin De Bruyne is playing amazing. The team is just chugging along like a machine, and Pep Guardiola's got them playing really well. So if I was a opposing Premier League team, Manchester City is probably the scariest team in the league right now, I would say.
They're definitely really high momentum for sure. And I have to give credit to Ruben Diaz. Yeah. He's a player I kind of roasted at the beginning of the season.
John Stones, who would have thought?
Yeah, who would have thought that him and John Stones would be the prime center back pairing? Because this is a crazy stat that I saw, but in the last 22 games that Ruben Diaz has played for Man City, they've gotten a clean sheet in 15 of them. That's over half, which is really rare to see unless you're Atletico Madrid. But for Man City, this is actually huge because now they can scrape away winning games that they shouldn't be winning 1-0 just because of their defense. Yeah. But even then, they don't even need to because they're winning games like this 4-0. And they're even doing it without Aguero. So I'm scared. I think this is very dangerous for everyone. The title race because they can easily, start to get away with it.
Yeah, because what was crazy was in the beginning of the season, we were always talking about their offense isn't good. They just keep they're not scoring enough. But their defense, what made them such good title contenders or title winners those past 2 seasons when they went back to back was not their offense. Their offense was amazing, but it was their defense. Their defense just kept people in check because they could hold the ball up so well and play possession style, possession football and such, and they could just keep the ball. And now we're seeing them replicate it. And their defense is to a position where they're amazing. Right now, they just don't concede goals, and they're playing really, really good stuff. So, Pep Guardiola, he's obviously won it before. He knows what it takes. A lot of those players on that squad have won it before, so they are a team that is gearing up for the title race. And I would be kind of scared. But another team that is making some big news right now is Leicester City. They beat Chelsea 2-0, but the bigger question is Brendan Rodgers, can he actually maintain the form with Leicester City and do it? I know if we brought up the question before, it seems like every time we bring up the question, he chokes the next week. So Tyler, I'm asking again, is it time that Leicester City and Leicester City and Brendan Rodgers are taken seriously as title contenders?
No.
You heard it here.
Because I still feel like Brendan Rodgers can't finish. We have to see how Leicester are in March and April, because usually that's when it starts to fall apart, when the wheels fall off the bus, as the common phrase likes to go. But Brendan Rodgers, typically, he has a lot of good mojo going, a lot of good momentum that he can build. Surprisingly, he didn't really do too well at the beginning of the season, in my opinion. Usually he has a monster start, and then it's just tails off the beginning or at the end of the season. It's kind of like when you're at school, and then you have that student that just gets 100 on everything, and then for the final, they're like, "What do you need to get an A?" It's a 27 on the final. It's all right, and then they just give up, and then they just drop off, and then all of a sudden they're not number one. But they have enough to still do well and make it into European Cup competitions. So I think that potentially still might happen with Leicester. It will be the typical thing to happen with Brendan Rodgers. So it'd be very atypical for Leicester to stay in that top 4 and get that Champions League spot, even, in my opinion. But if there's a year to...
I will say real quickly that this is, I believe, the 3rd season under Brendan Rodgers, and for the most part, the team hasn't changed a ton. There's still, James Maddison, Jamie Vardy, Jose Perez from last season. They brought in some youngsters like James Justin, Wilfred Ndidi's been there. I feel like, and Tielemans and such. They were a young squad. Obviously, Vardy and such are old and everything, but I think, they've learned, and I think they've matured. Especially the young players, I think they've matured over the couple of seasons that maybe they might be a little bit more ready. It's sort of like maybe the Tottenham Mauricio Pochettino thing, where it's okay, they were very young. Can they actually sustain it? Maybe this is the season that they've learned enough of their failures that, hey, that we know that we have to keep it up. We can't just let off the gas pedal, otherwise we'll fall off. So I don't know. I think maybe the extra years with Brendan Rodgers, I feel like that could give them the momentum of keep it going, see what happens. But yeah,
true. They play pretty well to their own Brendan Rodgers style, and even that played a factor in this Leicester Chelsea game, because Chelsea had most possession, and they even had comparable shots on target, comparable shots, the general. But I felt like the scoreline is a little misleading compared to what really happened. But I mean, I think that's part of guess if we go into Chelsea,
Yeah,
what's going on with Chelsea?
Edouard Mendy kept making like some fantastic saves. It could have been a worse scoreline, but yeah, Chelsea right now are in 8th place, I believe, or yeah, I think yesterday when I checked they were in 8th place, but now I believe they are 12 points off the top of the table, which is insane. When you think about when we talked about Chelsea in the summer, it was always about, okay, they have all these big players. Are they title contenders? Probably, but it's going to take some time to just gel and get everyone together. So in that first month, when they started to hit some strides and you're like, oh, okay, this team actually looks kind of scary. We're like, okay, the gelling period is, Frank Lampard's done a really good job of getting everyone together, getting the team, this team spirit. Then we saw Timo Werner kind of dip in form, and we were like, this guy, what's the deal with this guy? And then Kai Havertz really hasn't performed, playing out of position. Then Christian Pulisic's been in and out of the lineup with injuries and such. And then they finally figured out their defense, getting Edouard Mendy. But what's shocking here is that Lampard was given a war chest to basically become title contenders and be in first place in the Premier League right now. He's given an entire war chest of literally cherry picking the players he wanted. Like literally Kai Havertz was a luxury buy. It was just, he went to Abramovich and was like, I want Havertz, get Havertz. And what did they do? They bought Havertz. And now they are in a position where they are in 8th place, 12 points off the top of the table. And they don't know what to do. There was reports that Chelsea are reluctant to sack Lampard because they don't want to bring in like a super interim manager right now. But Lampard is in a very toasty situation right now because he has to figure out how to fix this team. Otherwise, his job is in jeopardy because a club like Chelsea do not, whether you're a legend or not, they sacked Jose Mourinho when he was probably in even a worse position than he was now. They sacked him after winning, after he won them a title. So Chelsea is a club where they do not, they don't take it lightly when it comes to their managers. They don't care what type of pedigree you have, who you are, what you've done. If you're not performing or bringing in the results, they will pull the plug. And Lampard, I think he's on thin ice right now when it comes to the Chelsea board, and he's got to figure out what's going on with the squad fast.
The more and more Chelsea kind of stay out of the top 6, the more fatter I see Frank Lampard's memes get. Because like every time they lose, they just somehow Photoshop him to get a little bit wider. And I don't know what's the thing, but that 220 million pound war chest always pops up as an argument for Chelsea and why they aren't doing better. And at this point, I'm kind of on that train. I'm slowly getting on that train of like they should be doing better. Like they're doing worse than they were last year.
Yeah.
And I know, like we always say, they got a lot of new players,
but they got experienced players. Like obviously Werner's young, but he's an experienced pro. Ben Chilwell's experience, Thiago Silva's experience, Edouard Mendy experience. I mean, it's funny because it was like the people were calling for Solskjaer's job, even though he didn't even spend like half the money Lampard did in the summer. People were calling for his job even like when things were going bad. But I feel like for Lampard, people are still calling for his job, but the media, in terms of the scrutiny he's getting, I don't think it's as much as Solskjaer was getting when things were kind of going a little bit of a rough patch for him in Manchester United.
And even then, I can't believe that all of Chelsea is behind West Ham in the table. West Ham's in 7th place.
And West Ham is under David Moyes, and they went like a complete rebuild project, basically, to get the club back on track.
So that's why a lot of people want Lampard's head. There's a lot of things going on, at least that I see on Twitter. There's like, who gets sacked first? The manager of Celtic, Marseille, or Chelsea? And all three are doing pretty bad. But for Chelsea, this is like very abnormal. I can't even compare it to anything because it's the whole organization. Like this is, I wouldn't say as bad as when Jose Mourinho was in as a manager and then they're in the relegation battle at some point. Mm-hmm. But for the expectations for where they should be, at least, this is pretty atrocious.
Yeah, no, it's very bad. And I think it kind of just speaks about the just the nature of this club, that they are a bunch of reports that they're trying to target Erling Haaland in the summer. And yeah, there you go. You're back on camera. Don't worry, folks. Just a little minor technical difficulty. Don't worry about that. But they're targeting Erling Haaland in the summer, even though they purchased Timo Werner, which was like 45 mil or something like that. it just makes the transfer of Werner crazy that they're already targeting another young striker such as Erling Haaland to come in the summer, this summer, to replace him. And it just kind of speaks about what the club of Chelsea is like. It's just they just chop and change stuff so fast that I feel like it's just so hard to maintain stability there.
I don't think Erling Haaland should go to.
Yeah, no, I don't. I think he's good enough to go to like Barca or Real Madrid.
I mean, even then, I kind of want him at Liverpool, but jeez. I mean, I don't know. Maybe he might go up to Bayern Munich at this point, given he's the Bundesliga. But it's kind of sad to see that they're already trying to replace, someone like Werner. Or, I don't know. Maybe you can think about this positively and think they're getting him a partner. But
that's like, I don't know. It's like you invest so much money into a striker, you just hope that it will work out. But Chelsea, I know we mentioned should they sack Lampard? We did a whole episode about it two episodes ago, but I think I give him maybe another month. But if it keeps going like this, I think he's probably out of the job, to be honest.
Well, we'll have to just wait and see at this point, because I'm kind of surprised Abramovich is still kind of not really.
You don't think he'll get sacked in this season, or he'll probably get sacked in the off season, if anything?
It might take to end of the season, and then they'll see where they're at then. But I think for now he might still have some more time. But don't quote me. I ain't Abramovich.
Bold move. I'm going for the quick Abramovich kill, but Tyler's going for a bit of a grace right there. But we'll see what happens. Chelsea are kind of in a bad position. Leicester City are tied for second place right now with Manchester City, I believe. So both clubs going at totally opposite directions of the table. We'll see what happens, obviously, at the end of the year and see where everyone lands. But I wanted to quickly mention the Fulham Manchester United game that happened today. The big thing was United picked up a kind of a scrappy 2-1 victory, but it was Paul Pogba scoring a screamer outside the box, just curls it, just literally curls the ball past Areola. World-class finish. It was interesting. Pogba at the post-game interview said, "I enjoy winning. I love winning. I like playing and such." And it's interesting because as soon as Manchester United have gotten better, we've seen a better Paul Pogba. Paul Pogba was playing better, and I think the broadcasters were saying they were bringing this analogy is that whenever Pogba's played, he's played in winning teams such as the Juventus team, the French national team. But we talked about this before, where it's never been he's been the main star guy. It's kind of he's been a piece of the puzzle where the team is already there. And I feel like now with Manchester United, they have more of a team built where Bruno Fernandes is now the number one guy and Rashford's there, Martial's there, Cavani's there. They have a defense where Pogba can now just play the deep line playmaking role and just do his part and play his game. And it's not about, there's this pressure. He has to do the defending. He has to do the attacking. He has to do everything. Now Paul Pogba can just play the way Paul Pogba wants to play. And now we're seeing the best of him because he's starting to influence and impact games a lot more than what he's been doing during his whole spell at Manchester United, I would say. It's
one of those things that we kind of talked about as well, where it's like, where would Pogba be? Is like, what does he need to thrive? And it's like, you just let him do whatever he wants. It's kind of like Ozil, where it's just like, you kind of have to have the team already kind of built. It's like, can you beat most teams with just 10 people and then just add him in and then just let him do his thing and just give that team that step up? I feel like Pogba is that kind of player where if you put him like Fulham, he'll struggle. But you put him in Man U, it's kind of like, a luxury buy almost. Whereas like with Mkhitaryan, where he only really does well when they're winning. And I feel like that might be what it is with Pogba. But actually kind of brings me to a good segue in terms of something we wanted to mention on our rundown as well. But it's just a little bit more transfer news, just like some transfer updates. And this is something that happened also right after we finished last week. But Mesut Ozil is finally left Arsenal. He is now on his way to Fenerbahce in the Turkish league. And this is actually funny, but his flight from London to Fenerbahce in Turkey was the most tracked flight of all time on like the Turkish airline app or whatever airline he used. No, he probably used a private jet, but I
swear that happened when Robin Van Persie moved too. Like at that time, it was like the most tracked flight when Van Persie moved to Fenerbahce and such. And now Ozil's taking the crown.
This was wild just to even see that what's his contract look like? Because he was getting paid £300,000 a week. So I wonder how he's doing at Fenerbahce now.
Yeah.
Because I believe there was teams in the MLS like DC United looking into potentially trying to bring Ozil there too.
Yeah.
But because of the salary cap here in the MLS, they're like, nah.
That would be cool to see Ozil in the MLS and such. I think it was I don't know. It's kind of sad to see that he still has like a lot of love for Arsenal. There was a tweet he put out, was like always cheering for the Gunners and such, no matter what. But I think for him, I was like, I get the whole love affair, but it's like, come on, man, you gotta kind of move on, because it's like you don't see a lot of former players tweeting like that unless they're retired or basically, on their swan song type thing. Like you don't see Luis Suarez when he was at Barcelona, killing it. You didn't see him tweeting like every other tweet, like, oh, I love Liverpool, you'll never walk. So for me, I don't know. Sometimes I'm like, I love the whole love affair, the whole story there, but a part of me is just like, come on, Ozil, like move on, your time is kind of come and gone. Like it's still good to appreciate, the love you got and every now and again, but you got like a new focus and a new team, just, focus on that and see what happens there type thing. I don't know. That's just me though.
No, I see that. It's like kind of weird to be such a big fan when you could play, but they don't even play you or put you on the bench.
Yeah, it's
like,
weird. I just find it very like kind of an awkward situation,
It is super awkward. And I don't even know how I would personally deal with it. Ozil, he does what he's doing, but now he's at a new home in Turkey, and we're going to see how that kind of stacks up, because now it'll be maybe finally time for him to play.
Yeah.
Because we haven't seen him play for, I feel like a couple years, 3 years now.
Yeah.
Consistently, at least.
It's been a while. So it'll be nice to see how he ends up in front of Fenerbahce. I hope he does well. So maybe he gets a move to like another European side soon, or maybe he gets a move to the MLS. It'll be nice to see him in the United States, but we'll see what happens with that one. There was another transfer that hasn't materialized yet, but it's been pretty talked about. It's pretty heavy rumors. Fikayo Tomori, Chelsea center back, young center back actually. Last season he played a decent amount of games, but this season hasn't really played that much. AC Milan has been in the talks for a loan to buy option for 30 mil for him. So that's kind of a weird one. I figured Chelsea would want to keep him, but I don't know. I would have kept him. I thought he was pretty decent the times he did play. So it's just kind of an odd move by Chelsea to sell off someone like that.
I feel like he did have a lot of potential too. And he was one of those kids that Frank Lampard brought over. And he was like, how Mason Mount is Lampard's son? Yeah. Like Tomori's like the other son. He just brought him over.
And Reece James too.
Yeah, Reece James. He's like all these players. I thought Tomori especially would have had that role that would maybe rotate with Kurt Zouma. But now he's behind, I would say, Zuma, Rudiger, and Christensen. Like he's way down the pecking order all of a sudden for some reason.
Yeah, I'm just like, what?
It might be something. What did he do? Like something behind the scenes on the training grounds? Like, did he do something bad? Did he just make Lampard upset or something? Like he had so much potential.
He's the one doing the Photoshop.
Yeah, he's just the one making the memes of Lampard, so that's why. And then someone found out and ratted him out. But I mean, just that was kind of surprising to see. And for an English player to go to the Italian league is very interesting. You don't really see that too often, unless it's David Beckham, I guess.
Joe Hart did it. Joe Hart did when he went to Torino.
Oh yeah, he did go to Torino. Yeah, that kind of makes sense.
Yeah, but it's not very rare that an English player goes to the Italian league. It's very rare that an English player actually goes outside of England, really.
Yeah, that's true too. So there's just so much potential. And for him to leave,
I will say AC Milan are killing it right now.
They are killing it. They're first on the table.
Really good, so maybe that might be good for him to be in a side that's actually doing well and winning.
I don't think he speaks Italian though, but
yeah,
the move, as Yash said, is not final, but it's just very heavy talks. It's like it's medical and everything, so it's looking likely.
Yeah, it's. I'll quickly mention this real quickly before you mention our last one because it's kind of crazy. But Jack Wilshere, he, I believe it's a loan or Bournemouth bought him, and obviously Bournemouth are in the championship. But it seems like Jack Wilshere finally has a new home. He was at West Ham, didn't really play that much, but man, it is crazy how he once went from being the kid that literally had the best game of his life against Barcelona in the Champions League to being considered one of England's greatest generational talents to now, kind of withering away in the championship. It's the fall from grace, as we always say, but it's kind of crazy how Wilshere's career has just went all like from the trajectory of being like the best of all time to now just being just a normal championship player. Crazy.
Mm-hmm. It's literally he wasn't even like the best, but he had so much potential. It was
the injury.
It wasn't like Tomori potential, but it was like way higher. It was like he's gonna be the next big thing.
Yeah, it's almost like the way we hyped up Dele Alli and stuff. Like that. But it's the injuries, man. There's
a lot of the injuries, so hopefully best of luck to Jack Wilshere. But even then, it's gonna be kind of rough being the main man in a Bournemouth side that lost a lot of players, a couple seasons ago, and now they're just going to be, just chilling in the small town of Bournemouth.
So yeah, we'll see what happens there. And then one last one, Danny Drinkwater moving to, I can't even pronounce the name. Do you know how to spell it?
Kasimpasa?
I don't even know.
How do they even get
Where's that
Danny
at?
Drinkwater over there?
Where is that at? Where's that even club? Where's that club located?
I feel like it'd be Russian league. I'm not probably gonna fact check this, but Drinkwater has now left Chelsea, and he's now just in this the most random of clubs. So just as we were saying, you don't usually see English players leaving England. We see Tomori going to AC Milan potentially, and then Drinkwater going to the middle of nowhere.
Yeah, It's funny because sometimes I'm like shocked that like, holy crap, Drinkwater's still in the league or he still plays for Chelsea because he was playing for Burnley on loan and he couldn't even get inside the Burnley team. This guy's career has just went down the drain after he moved from Leicester. Shouldn't have left. That was like
Atlanta United could use him.
Yeah. We'll see what happens, but Drinkwater moving. But that kind of rounds up like our transfer updates. But moving on to our preview section, there are no Premier League games this weekend because it's FA Cup weekend. So it'll be interesting. But the biggest game of the FA Cup weekend is Manchester United Liverpool. We get the same matchup again, but this time at Old Trafford. I don't know. United's luck in these cup competitions haven't been the best, and they haven't performed the best in these cup competitions. So, unfortunately, I don't know. I personally just don't see how United can get out and win this one, which sounds horrible to say, but I actually think Liverpool might win this one 2-1 because United's cup competition luck has not been the best.
I really don't know what team Liverpool would put out for this cup competition. I feel like given they put on a decent amount of the starting 11 against that U23 side of Aston Villa in the previous round, that they'll probably do the same. Maybe have Nico Williams, Calvin Keller in goal, Reece Williams, like those academy products in the defense. But at least the midfield and attack, they'll have, some rotational players, but I wouldn't be surprised if we see, Mane and Henderson and Milner in. So I think there's still a pretty good chance that Liverpool will still have a starting. Wow, do you think Man U would put 11 that you would be comparable to in like the Premier League, or you think they're going to put on some backends or backups?
No, I still think they'll go for it. I think they'll put a pretty strong side. Maybe some rotational players here and there, but I think for the most part, it's going to be a very strong starting 11.
It'll be tough overall, just because when you face a team back to back, it's never easy to beat.
It was that one weird period. I think it was in the Champions League semifinals when Liverpool played City, and then they played them again in the league, and then played them back in the Champions League. Or was that Tottenham that played City and then played them in the Premier League, then played them back in the Champions League? It was one of those clubs that year.
Like it was Liverpool.
Yeah, it was one of those clubs that year where they were just played like 3 games on the cuff.
It was, I think, if I remember correctly, there weren't that many goals. When that happened. So I wouldn't be surprised. I feel like Liverpool will win this despite being at Old Trafford. And I think it'll be this time, low scoring prediction of just 1-0.
Dang. 1-0. I think United might actually lose this one too, which is unfortunate to say. I want them to win, but there's just luck in the cup competition has been great. So I think Liverpool might win this one 2-1. And then
wait, I just realized we don't have Alisson playing probably. All right, no, I'm going to say 2-1.
Oh wait, he got injured again?
No, it's just like I think they'll play the backup. They'll probably
Oh,
play Keller.
okay.
So
All right.
okay, no, I'll say 2-1 now.
Yeah, we'll see
Same
what
score.
happens. It'll be an interesting cup competition. It was so weird that they met up this early in the FA Cup rounds, but we'll see what happens. But that was our one preview game, obviously, because there's no Premier League this weekend. But with that wraps up episode 103 for us. As we always say, though, before we end our show, please make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. You can subscribe to us on our YouTube channel at The Premier Pod. Follow us at The Premier Pod on Instagram and Twitter. You can obviously send us a question or two there. We always respond and ready to respond. But yeah, we do appreciate the support. If you can leave us a rating on Apple Podcasts, that'd be great. It helps us get our podcasts out there. But if you don't want to do that, that's totally fine. A listen is more than enough. And if you want to share the podcast with a friend or anyone that would find this content interesting, that would be great as well. It gets our name out there in another way. So we appreciate the support in any way that it comes. So thank you guys so much for listening. That kind of wraps up episode 103 for us. Thank you guys so much. Peace.
Peace.